It doesn't start with words. It starts with hesitation, a pause before you speak, a quiet calculation in your mind. Is this worth bothering them with? And the answer almost always is no. This is the weight you carry that no one else can see. The belief that your presence is something people tolerate, not celebrate. That your needs are an inconvenience. That you are fundamentally too much. Maybe you were the child who learned to need less, to ask for nothing, to make yourself small and quiet so no one had to worry about you. You watched the adults in your life struggle, with money, with stress, with each other, and you made a decision. I won't add to it. So you stopped asking. You stopped crying when you were hurt. You learned to say, "I'm fine," before anyone even asked. You became the easy child, the low-maintenance one, the kid who never caused problems. By the time you were a teenager, this had calcified into something deeper. You started apologizing for things that weren't your fault. For taking up space, for needing a ride, for being sad when everyone else seemed okay. You began every request with, "I'm sorry," or "I know you're busy, but," as if your existence required a disclaimer. Now, as an adult, the pattern is everywhere. You over-explain simple requests. You thank people excessively for basic kindness. You cancel plans the moment you sense someone might be inconvenienced. You'd rather suffer in silence than ask for help, because asking feels like admitting you're a burden. And when people do show up for you, you can't fully receive it. There's a voice in your head keeping score, calculating debt, reminding you that you owe them, that their kindness isn't freely given, it's loaned, and someday you'll have to pay it back or prove you were worth it. You live in a constant state of apologizing for being human. Psychologists call this perceived burdensomeness, the persistent belief that you are a liability to the people around you. But this isn't just low self-esteem. It's not insecurity. It's a core identity wound that shapes how you move through the world. Here's what really happens. This belief typically forms in childhood, during moments when your needs were met with resentment, exhaustion, or scarcity. Maybe your parents were overwhelmed and you internalized the message that needing things caused them pain. Maybe you witnessed a sibling getting more attention and concluded that your needs were less important. Or maybe no single event happened, just 1,000 small moments where you learned, "My presence creates stress." This is what researchers call internalized expendability. You don't just think you're a burden, you organize your entire life around minimizing your impact. You become hyper-attuned to other people's emotional bandwidth. You can sense when someone is tired, annoyed, or distracted, and you immediately retract. You disappear before anyone has to ask you to leave. And here's the neurological cost. Your brain develops what's called a negative self-schema. Every interaction gets filtered through this lens. When someone helps you, you don't think they care about me. You think they feel obligated. When someone invites you somewhere, you don't think they enjoy my company. You think they're being polite. You have trained your brain to interpret kindness as charity. And charity, by definition, is something you don't deserve. This belief also creates a devastating feedback loop. Because you feel like a burden, you isolate. You stop reaching out. You decline invitations. You handle everything alone. And then when you're struggling, you have no one to turn to. Not because people don't care, but because you've systematically pushed them away to protect them from yourself. And the cruelest irony? The people who love you have no idea you feel this way. They see you as independent, strong, self-sufficient. They don't realize that what looks like strength is actually a deep fear of being too much. So you suffer quietly, invisibly, because asking for help feels like proving the very thing you're terrified of, that you are, in fact, a burden. But here's what no one tells you about living this way. You don't just feel like a burden, you become invisible. Because when you spend your entire life trying not to inconvenience anyone, you stop showing up as yourself. You edit your stories to be shorter. You downplay your pain so it doesn't sound too heavy. You laugh off your problems so no one has to feel responsible for fixing them. And slowly, people stop seeing you clearly. Not because they don't care, but because you've become so good at hiding. They ask how you are, and you say fine, and they believe you because you've given them no reason not to. So when you finally do break down, it shocks everyone. "I had no idea you were struggling," they say, and you want to scream, "I've been struggling the entire time. You just never saw it because I made sure you wouldn't." And here's the part that destroys you. Even when people explicitly tell you you're not a burden, you don't believe them. They can say, "I'm here for you," 100 times, and your brain will still whisper, "They're just being nice. They don't actually want to deal with this." You've built such a fortress around this belief that evidence to the contrary can't get through. So you end up in this impossible place. You're desperate for connection, but terrified of needing it. You want to be close to people, but you keep them at arm's length. You're drowning, but you're smiling and waving and insisting you're fine. And the loneliness becomes unbearable. Not the loneliness of being alone, but the loneliness of being surrounded by people who care about you, and still feeling like you have to carry everything by yourself. Because deep down, you believe that if people really knew how much you needed, how heavy your problems are, how tired you've been, how much help you actually require, they would leave. So you keep the burden to yourself, and you quietly collapse under the weight of trying to never be one. Here's the truth you've been running from. You are not a burden for having needs. You are a human being, and human beings need other human beings. The belief that you're too much, that you take up too much space, that your problems are too heavy, it's not truth, it's trauma, and there's a difference. So what does it actually look like to dismantle this belief? It starts with something small and terrifying, practicing need without apology. The next time you need help, try asking for it without the preamble. Not, "I'm so sorry to bother you, I know you're busy, but if you have time, no pressure, but just, can you help me with this?" It will feel wrong, rude even. Your nervous system will scream at you that you're being selfish. But here's what you're actually doing. You're teaching your brain that needing people doesn't destroy relationships, it deepens them. Because here's what you've misunderstood about being a burden. Real connection requires reciprocity. When you never let people help you, when you never share your struggles, when you always play the role of the one who has it together, you're not protecting the relationship, you're keeping it shallow. People don't just want to be around you when you're easy, they want to know you when you're messy, when you're struggling, when you need them. Because that's what intimacy is. Letting someone see you fully and trusting they won't leave. Here's another practice. Notice when you're keeping score. That voice that says, "I've asked too much, I owe them now, I need to give back before I can need again." That's not love, that's transaction. Real relationships aren't ledgers. You don't have to earn the right to be cared for. And this one is crucial. Stop interpreting neutral behavior as rejection. When someone doesn't text back immediately, it doesn't mean you bothered them. When someone says they're tired, it doesn't mean you exhausted them. When someone can't help you this time, it doesn't mean you're too much. Not everything is about you, and that's actually liberating. You might also need to grieve, to mourn the years you spent making yourself small, the relationships you kept shallow because you were afraid of being too much, the help you didn't ask for, the pain you carried alone when you didn't have to. That grief is real, and it's valid, but it's also evidence that you're starting to understand. You deserved better. You always deserved to take up space. You've spent so many years believing that love is something you have to earn by being easy, by needing less, by making sure you're never too heavy for anyone to hold. But here's the quiet truth. You were never too much. The people who made you feel that way, they didn't have enough to give, and that wasn't your fault. It was never your fault. Your needs are not a burden. Your struggles are not an inconvenience. Your presence is not something people tolerate. It's something they're lucky to have. And the people who truly love you, they don't see you as a burden. They see you as a person, complicated, imperfect, sometimes needing help. And they want to help, not because they have to, but because that's what love is. So the next time you start to apologize for asking for something simple, for needing space, for being human, stop, take a breath, and remind yourself, I am not a burden. I am a person who is worthy of care, exactly as I am. You don't have to earn the right to be cared for. You don't have to shrink to make room for others. You don't have to carry everything alone to prove you're not too much. You were never too much. You were just surrounded by people who had too little to give. But there are people who have more, who want to give more, who are waiting for you to let them in. Start there. Let someone help you, without apologizing, without explaining, without keeping score. That's where you finally get to be human, and being human was never a burden. It was always, always enough.